Hey everyone, it's Rachel from Moments to Milestones, and I'm here today with a techniques class. And so these are something new we started, and they're a little different from our normal class kits in that they don't come with written instructions. This YouTube video will help you walk through your kit. And you also get some product when you purchase a techniques class kit. So today we're featuring this Wonderful Day layering stencil from Hero Arts. It's a 5-piece stencil. It layers up your greenery and the florals to create this really pretty floral image. And we are going to create 3 different cards, so 3 different looks with them. This stencil set does have a coordinating stamp and die combo set that I'm going to show you, which I use to stamp this image and I use to do the die cutting. But you could certainly, with just the stencil, use your scissors and fussy cut this and not need to have that combo if you do not want to purchase it. But in your kit, like I said, you're going to get that stencil, and then you're going to have 3 card kits to create those, as well as 1 block of sentiments, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want to use there. And then I'm going to show you some additional items that you will need. You don't necessarily have to use the ones I have here, but something similar would be great. So we're going to start with the inks that I use. So you're going to need like a corally pink color and a green. I have used Pink Fresh Studios, Coral Reef, and Fresh Pear. And then I have a blending brush for each color. And then you're going to need some stencil pastes. So today for the black, it's kind of a silvery black. This is Hero Arts Hero Wax. Looks like that. But any stencil paste would do. And as we go through and make the cards, I'll also give some other suggestions if you're not someone who has stencil paste. There are other options to use with the stencil. And this is the Nuvo Glimmer Paste in the color Moonstone. So it dries clear and very glittery. And I'm going to use just this little cheapy palette knife for that. And this is the clear stamp and die combo that I was talking about. They call it a bundle. And so there's the stamp set with all the sentiments that I gave you. And then the coordinating dies come with that. So I use this to create the kit, and I'm going to use it, we'll use it in class. And then you're going to need a background stamp of your choice. It does not have to be the one I'm using, so you just need 1 background stamp. This is called Burlap Bold Prints from Hero Arts. And then you will also need another background stencil of your choice. Today we are using this Hero Arts stencil. I believe it's called Lacy Floral. And that should be it. So we will go ahead and start with this first card. So this one is the I'm Here For You. And so what we'll do first is we're going to use our stencils and create the flowers. Then we're going to die cut them out and create the card. We're going to first start with layering. This is that Hero Wax through that lacy floral stencil. So we're going to start with that so it has a little bit of time to dry. So get out your background stamp or your background stencil. You could certainly use a stamp here too. You could emboss it with clear embossing ink. If you don't have a stencil, there's lots of ways to be creative. So what I'm going to do is just use a scratch piece of paper. There are lots of tools out there made for making stencil use really easy. But I'm just going to show you basic what I do. I've got lots of scratch paper around. I don't know, my kids have many notebooks from school that I have a pile of, and I use in my craft room at home in the same fashion. I just rip it off and throw it away when I'm done. But I'm going to get out a piece of painter's tape. We're going to need that. And let's see, what do I need? I need my card kit. That's what I need. So in your kit, you're going to need your stencil eventually, but the kit I'm looking for is this one. It has the oval and this black cardstock, the white oval, and it also has a white, which we're going to use later. But you want this black piece of paper here, and I'm just going to use a little adhesive just put that down on my scratch paper. And then I'm going to lay that over. Now I'm going to kind of center the pattern on my cardstock, but you could do it however you want. And I apologize, we have construction going on next door, so if you can hear that, I'm sorry. There's just no way to work around it anymore. So I am going to just hold that down. And since I kind of tacked down my black cardstock, I don't need to worry about that. And then I'm going to get out my hero wax and this black palette knife. And I'm just going to get some out. Now, if you don't have a palette knife, an old gift card works good. A plastic gift card. There's lots of things you can use. I know they sell big, large palette scrapers. So there's lots of ways. But what you want to do is put it down and then pull it, put down the wax, and then just pull it across the stencil. And on this one, I make sure I get in every spot. I mean, sometimes you could go for that more vintage look or distressed look and not hit every hole, but I want to hit them all. And so we're just putting on a thin layer. Don't see any black, so I'm just gonna pull off all that I can so I can put it back in the jar. And then this wax, you want to clean that off your stencil and palette knife as quickly as possible. So I do have a paper towel. I'm gonna spray with water and just clean off this palette knife. And then I'm gonna take my stencil off and take it over to the sink. Let me pull that up. And you're left with that beautiful pattern on that paper. So I'm just going to leave that there to let it dry. You could pull it off if you want, but I don't want to mess with it. So I'm just going to set this aside to dry. You could certainly use your heat gun on a low heat setting to speed up the process if you need to. But I think while we do all the stenciling and die cutting, it'll have time to dry. So I will be right back. Alright, so I put that stencil in some water so I can clean it up later. So what you're going to need next is your white card panel. I still have a little bit of paste on my fingers. Okay, you're going to need this white panel and your layering stencils. I'm going to get those out. And then you're going to need your 2 ink colors and your blending brushes. Okay. And so I'm also going to use another piece of scratch paper on this. I'm going to do that same process with my, put a little bit of adhesive down and put my paper there so it doesn't move. And we're going to start with our stencil. So let's talk about the stencils first. There's 5 different layers, and I like on the back they kind of show you what each layer does. You can go in this order. You can really go in any order you want. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with the flowers. They aren't numbered, but they do have a number in the bottom that kind of has the product, like the SKU number or whatever for this product, so you can keep them all together. And then they do have these 4 holes that you can help use to align your stencils as you go through and use them. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the one with the most flowers and the one with the leaves, and they line right up, and I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm not off where everything wouldn't be on there. So you're pretty much going to center it on there. And I am going to take a pen or a pencil and I'm gonna color in those squares. You can use ink as well, but we'll use that to line it up every time. So I will go ahead and start with this one since it's down. And I'm gonna tape it so it doesn't move. And I'm gonna start with the green. So I just used 2 colors on all of these cards. And just because you're layering them, you get, you know, a light and a dark. So there's no need to have, you know, an array of colors of ink. Not always. I'm showing you simple ways to use these products. So we're gonna start, we need green. Leaves are green. And I'm gonna ink up my blending brush, and then I'm just going to lay down the ink. And you want to work your brush, rotate one way and turn it the other so you're hitting all the edges of your stencil. And you can go as light. It may look like I'm not putting very much down, but once you pull it back, you'll be able to see the color. And then what I'm going to do is ink it up, and then maybe at the bottoms of some of these, I'm really going to lay in some more color just to add some different dimension to it. There's the green, and then what I'm going to do is I have a damp rag. Well, it's not damp, but I'm going to make it damp. Let's spray some water on it. And you don't have to clean as you go, but I kind of like to, so I don't forget. So I'm going to pull that off, and then you can see we have the leaves there. And I'm just going to wipe this off. I don't want to do it over my... Okay, and let's see, since we're on green, we'll go back to the stems, which look like this. So you're going to want to line up those squares again. Tape them down. I'm going to go in with that same color, and I'm going to try to be a little bit more heavy-handed because I want like my stems to be darker. Okay. There's that. Let me wipe that off quickly. Okay. And so now I'm going to start on my flowers. So I am going to use this one that has the bigger portion. Has the most flowers on it. I'm going to start with that one. So I will line those back up. Tape it down, and now we're going to switch over to our pink color. And I'm going to try to go with a light hand here because if I go too dark, it might be hard to lay that color down later. So nice light hand. This one has lots of little pokies, which you have to be careful cleaning or you'll bend them like I have. So if you know what pixie spray is, it's a spray you can put on the back of your stencils and it will hold it in place. So little details like that might be a good choice to use. But this here also works for holding it in place. So it looks like there's not very much color down, but I'm going to pull it up and see. You can see that it's very faint. I actually might go a little darker. That's what's nice about having it all lined up. You can just go in and add a little bit more. All right. Perfect. And like I said, you can wipe them down in between. Another good thing to use would be like rubbing alcohol really cleans the ink off good. So maybe when you're completely done, you could give them a good clean with that. All right. So now you need the next layer. Line it up. Tape it down. All right, same color, this time a little more heavy-handed. And these are dye inks, so with dye ink, sometimes when you put it down, it looks blotchy and you think you're not getting it even, but as it dries, it will even out, and even the color will kind of go back. It won't be as dark. It'll lighten up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to see if I'm happy with that. Just remove one side here. That looks good. I wouldn't mind that one being a little bit darker. So I'll just put it back. All right, so I think I'm good with that. So there is our image. Now we have one more stencil left, and this has the flower centers. It also has a couple butterflies, which we did use. I'll do it now. So I think I used the larger of it. I'm just going to do it down here in the corner. And I'm going to do it now because I'm getting ready to put some of that stencil paste over those flowers, and I want that to dry. So with this, you're going to kind of want to mask it off. So I'm going to get out some 4-inch Post-it tape here. Tear a piece of that off. And what I don't want is to get ink over here. So I'm going to put that, give myself enough room to fussy cut. And I'll cover up what I've already done. And we are going to make him pink. So nice light hand. And then what I did is I remember I wanted it darker on the edges, so I'm just trying to add color just to the edge. Okay. There's our little butterfly. Let me clean that off. All right, so now we're going to line up our final image here, and it's going to put the centers in all of the flowers. So on mine, I use that same Hero wax on there. We'll glue those on. It won't take very much. I'm kind of thinking I might because I need to die cut this just for the sake of class. We'll go ahead and use it, and then maybe I'll use my heat tool to speed up the drying. So you won't need very much. I'm just gonna scrape in those centers. Before I clean off my palette knife, so this will need to be cleaned. I'm going to get a wet paper towel. Okay, so there's my flower centers, and then I'm going to get this wet so it doesn't kind of dry on there. Try to clean it off here. You could certainly use black ink in this instance if you prefer. I kind of like the shimmer that the Hero Wax gave. So, all right. The last thing I'm going to do, I don't know if you can tell, but the body of my butterfly is black as well. So what you're going to do is line that back up, but you're going to have to, I don't know if I can do it yet with that being, nope, we can't do it yet. I'll have to cut him out. So we'll come back to that part. Or you could simply take a black marker and color it in, which may be the option I go for today. But I'll show you how to do it anyway. Okay, so there's that. And that needs to dry before we run it through the die cut machine, or it will move those black centers all over the place, and we don't want that. I'm going to go ahead and just give my heat gun it and dry it up. All right, so I think that's pretty good. Everything feels nice and dry. So the key with the heat tool is if you have a heat tool that has two settings, you use the low one or a blow dryer. You don't really want to like put it right on there. It might bubble or something like that if you don't want it to do that. We're not trying to emboss anything, we're just trying to dry it. So hold it back and just lightly go over it until it's dry. This one also is good to go, so I'm just going to gently peel it off. I can toss that, and we're just about ready to build our card. So I am going to get out this stamp bundle set here, and I am going to pull out the dies. And so the cool thing about this is it would cut out every single image on here as a die cut, or I could go in and cut out the whole image like so. But for this particular card, we want it to cut out every image. And it's nice, it's still together, like you don't have to place every single one. It will place all of those, and it will do the butterfly as well. So I'm going to use, some Post-it tape here, and I'm just going to line it up. Now I do have a few black spots here from my texture paste, and I have a mono sand eraser, and I'm just going to see if I can get that to come up. If it doesn't, no big deal. I kind of softened it a little bit so it's not so harsh. I could probably get to come completely off. I don't want to take off all the green as well. So that looks better. Okay. So I'm going to put my die cut on there and get it all lined up. Tack it down in a couple spots, and then I'm going to run it through my die cut machine. Alright, so I've got it through my die cut machine, so I'm just going to peel off this tape. I'm going to keep that butterfly in there just for a second. See if I can't get that black on there. And then I'm just going to punch all these out. some of them are punching out as whole flowers, some are just leaves. So now you end up with all these fun little pieces, and that's how we're going to create that floral cluster. So I'm going to set those off to the side, and we're going to focus on this little butterfly quickly. So I am going to line it back up and tape it down. And then what I'm going to do is with that larger post-it, I'm going to mask off his wings. So all I have is that body showing. And I'm going to take the tiniest amount and put his little body down. And I can peel that up. Those. And now we have a little black body. So I'm going to let that dry or use my heat tool here real quick, and then I'll get that die cut and I'll be right back. Okay, quickly I wanted to show you another way to do this butterfly if you're struggling with getting just that little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do the pink, and I'm going to keep it in place, and I have a small, a very thin, this is a 01 Zig pen, and I am just going to go in with it and draw in the body and color it in. And you get the same look, so you almost couldn't tell the difference between the one that has the hero wax on it and the one that doesn't. So I just wanted to briefly show you that in case you maybe were struggling with that, getting that hero paste on there just right, that this is a perfectly easy and fine route to go. All right, so we are ready to put this card together. So you have this black stenciled image here, and we're going to center that on there. And I popped mine up with some very thin foam. That's not necessary. Whatever you do, because of it's maybe a little warped from the paste or drying it, you want to make sure that it is glued straight down, that there's a lot of adhesive that will hold it straight. So I'm just going to use some runner here and make sure I get it on the edges, and then I'm going to put several lines so that it's going to be sealed down really nice. And I'm just going to center that on there. And I'll start one way and work my way, and now it's nice and flat. Okay, and now we're going to put that oval in the center as well. And because of the stencil paste, I'm going to use wet glue to make sure it sticks well. So right on the center. And then what we're going to do is lay, I don't believe I used all the florals, so we'll start laying them out, and I think some of them I may have cut the stems off. So that one's going to go about there. This one's right in here somewhere. So what I like to do is just put a small amount of, even if you have I did not use this one. If you use a little bit of repositionable, that would work too. I used this one, but I cut off the stem, so I'm just going to go in there and trim that off. but I like to just put a little on there, and then I can, not so much that it's permanent, but it's there good. If I want to move them around, I can. So I'm going to lay that there. This one's in here. This larger one there. I have a couple of, leave this one. It's coming out of there. And then I can go back in. I know I have foam in different places and add the foam if I want. That one already has some on there. It's coming out of there. Let's see, one of these little buds is coming out of here. Oh, I use the one with the stems on it still. So one has stems, one does not. So the one with stems is going to come out over here. The one that does not is right in here. Oh, we have another little flower in there. You're just going to get things, and that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to start using some permanent adhesive. And I'm trying to keep it on the card so that if you mail it, it'll fit in an envelope. So I'm just going to put a little on the bottom because I think I popped up the top of that. So I'm going to tuck that back in there. Like so. Put these in there. All right, so I'm going to get out some foam because I know I popped some of them up. You don't have to if you don't want to. I just like the dimension it gives. So I'm going to put those two down, and then I have this guy popped up too. And this one is also popped up, maybe. Okay. Well, you know what? I kind of glued that down. But that's okay. I think my sentiment's going to cover it, or I would leave it. All right. So tuck that in, and this one as well. So let me glue this guy down. Alright, so that's what we've got going on, and then I have an extra flower which I don't think I use. I mean, you could certainly tuck it in somewhere if you wanted. I just decided not to use it. I'm just going to see if I want it anywhere. And then we have one more leaf here. And we can always tuck a leaf in somewhere. I'm just going to tuck it in there. If you see any little gaps you want to close up. And then our little butterfly, I'm just gonna glue right there. And now we need our sentiments. So those were in this card kit here. Pull those out. And really all I did was use a paper trimmer. I'm gonna get that out of the way. And I'm going to just trim them. So I'll start with wishing you a wonderful day. I'm gonna get it where I want it. Trim it, and then we get this miss you so I don't cut it off. And then this one I used I'm Here For You. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut all of them now because it'll make life easier later on. Thanks. So we have the thanks, the sending smiles, and you can certainly cut them down more, get them closer if you want. You'll even have a couple extra strips if you wanted to stamp something different. And I'm just gonna take my scissors and cut that one off. And I didn't quite, I'm going to be brave here and go in with my scissors and make that cut, make it even. Not quite even. There we go. And then that I have right here. So I'm going to put foam on this end. Try to cover up my little boo-boo there. I have it slightly hanging off of the oval. All right, and that card is completed. Sending smiles. So let's get out that card kit, which I believe was the one you pulled your sentiments out of. The other one is going to have the stamped embossed image, so it won't be that one. So this one will have your card base and this card panel. So we are going to use our background stamp and stamp the card panel first. I'm just going to use it the old-fashioned way and have it right on my surface and press into it. So I'm going to take the same colors that we've been using. I'm going to ink up my background stamp. And then I'm gonna place my paper down, let it drop, take scratch paper, and then just push over the entire image. Make sure we get a good, even I'm gonna pull it off, and there it is. There's a few spots I probably didn't get ink on, but it gives a distressed look, and I'm okay with that. So I'm just gonna spray some ink on my stamp, give it a whoop swipe. All right, and now, you know what? I was supposed to stamp that onto my card panel. So I hope you weren't doing the exact same thing and following along. If you were, you need to re-stamp onto your card panel. I am just going to grab another card panel instead because we need to ink this onto the card panel, or onto the card panel. So I just stamped my background stamp onto this white panel, which I'm going to flip over and reuse. Let's just do that. And I'll re-stamp the card base. All right, so inked up the background stamp. This time I have my card base, And I'm going to lay that down onto the background stamp. Scratch paper over and press all over to get nice even coverage. Okay. And there we go. So now I have the right thing stamped. I'll just flip over my panel. That way, if you were following along, you did the wrong thing, there was a fix. Okay, so now we have our panel. I'm going to get that scratch paper again. Put a little adhesive in the center of it. Lay my panel down. And then we're going to get out our stencils again. So we have our 5 stencils. I'm going to start with the greenery again this time. Get some painter's tape out here. Or Post-it tape, whatever you have. Or if you're using a stencil mat, then maybe you don't need to tape anything down. Since we're die cutting this one as well, it doesn't have to be centered on there, but I'm just get it on there. I'm going to take a pencil again and mark the squares. You could also use the blending brush in the on all of those to get that same square alignment. All right, so we are going to, nope, not pink, we want green. We're doing leaves. So we're gonna go and do the exact same thing. Layer up our color. And then I'm going to come in and darken up some areas just to add dimension. You don't have to do that. They do make smaller stencil brushes. That would be good for that as well. But stencil is pretty forgiving. You just go in there and add some different areas and it'll be great. So there's that. I'm going to clean them all at the end this time. And then I'm going to line up my stencil again. The biggest thing is you just want to make sure there's the branding, the Hero Arts, and then the stencil number that they're not flipped the other way. And obviously it wouldn't match up and you'd be like that. Those stems aren't where they're supposed to be, but that will help line it up. So now I'm going to put in the stems. And once you start playing around with these, you could do all the flowers in different colors. You would just have to mask areas off, kind of like we did with that butterfly. You could have brown stems, green, or, you know, add different colors. We're just trying to keep our supplies basic and focus in on how to use your product. There's that. Well, I just ripped that. Let's get a different piece. All right, so now we're going to move into the florals. Match them up. And we're going to move into the pink. Lovely. Next one. So on this one, well, we'll come back to it. If you can see in the light, I hope the light catches it. We use that glimmer paste on that. So we're going to do that, but we want to get our flower centers in first, so we'll come back. So we'll go ahead and put down the color first. And so this time we go a little bit heavy-handed. We want it darker than the other layers. That little piece. I'm going to try to bend that back the other way so it quits. There we go. And we're going to do our flower centers, the same color. So now we are going to go back in with this layer that we did. So first I'm going to clean off the stencil because I don't want to contaminate my paste. Front, and I always flip it around and get the back. Alright, so we're going to put that back on there this time. Line back up. And now we are going to get out this glimmer paste, the moonstone color. I've got I'm going to make sure this is cleaned off good. Alright, so I've got my stencil knife again, or my palette knife, whatever you want to call it. And we are going to go over this layer with this paste. Now, the one thing about this, sometimes when you're putting this clear stuff over the ink, it can pull up the ink and change the color. So you don't want to get out more than you think you're going to use because it could go to waste. So I'm just going to get out what I think I'll need. I can always get more. Perfect. Well, I don't know what that is in there. Let's get that out of there. All right. So it does have a slight pink hue. You can kind of see it in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It might not be enough to bother you. If it bothers you, you can go ahead and pitch that. Close that back up. And then clean off my palette knife. And then you're going to want to clean off your stencil right away as well, or set it in water. And so now you can see we have that shimmer there, but it's going to need time to dry. So I'm going to set that off to the side for now. And I'm going to clean this. And so I set that aside to dry. So we'll give that a few minutes to dry. We may use the heat tool on that as well. and I am going to clean my stencils and I will be back. All right, I've given this image time to dry, and so we are going to bring back in our stamp bundle, stamp and die set, The Wonderful Day. And this time, instead of cutting each individual flower out, we're going to use the outline and cut out the entire image. If you do not have this stamp and die, you can certainly fussy cut this out. This would be very easy to do. There's not a lot of detail in there. Just take your scissors and go in there and cut it out. I'm going to go ahead and line this up and run it through my die cut machine. All right, so I will pop that out. Okay, and I'm going to put foam on the back of that. All right, I'm going to remove the backing off of all this foam, and then we will stick this image down onto our card base. All right, make sure it's opening the way you want it. Where is my sample so we can see what we're doing? Here it is. Whoops. Okay. And so we've just got it really centered, just like so. So there is our image, and now I'm going to pick a sentiment. I chose Sending Smiles. We'll just stick with that. We'll go in and trim that down, and we're going to put that right down there. So I'll put a little bit more foam. Right down there, hanging off the edge. Sending Smiles. All right, so there is a second way you can use your stencil. You can use it as a whole. And we'll go for our final card. So on this card, where is the example? Yes. So on this card, we also used the stamp set this time, and I embossed it with, I stamped it with black pigment ink and embossed with clear ink, and so we have a cool raised surface there. So what we're going to do this time, use the stencils, line it up over the stamp, and color in our image that way. So I am going to, let's see, we'll start with this piece here. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to turn it so I don't, well, yeah. They're still sticky on there. I'm going to use that same piece of paper since it didn't get all gunky. And I will start with my greenery. So I will line that up, and I need some more tape to tape it down. So this time it won't be straight because the way the image was stamped on there. So I'm pretty much just going to line up the stencil. Since you have that stamped image, you can see where we're going. You want to try to stay inside the black. All right. So I'm going to do that, and then I am going to get my pen back out. And I'm going to cross through those so I don't try to use the wrong one. And I will line those up again. Okay. And start with the green. Let's color in our images. You can go in and add the shadows if you want, or try to make certain areas darker. It's up to you. There's the green. And let's see, now I want my stems. Yeah. So line them back up. You can also use these stamped images as a guide. This time, tape it down, and I'm going to color in stems. So if you're not a color person, if you don't like coloring, or maybe you don't think you're very good at it, find one of these combo sets that has a stamp and a stencil, and the coloring goes super fast. You can make a ton of these easily, and different colors. I mean, we could do each flower a different color, or pick a few, and then you would just need you can mask all these off and make this one color, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a fun, and you can get many looks. What this one's cool that it cuts out. You can just stamp it and leave it like we did on this one. You can cut it into all those different florals that you can use separately. So you could do like 3 or 4 of these, do a pink one, a purple one, and then mix and match the colors, which would be good. Easier way than masking them off. And then I have a few more samples when we finish this card of other ways I use the stencil, so that you aren't just limited to using it with the stamp and the die. All right, let's see if that's enough color. Beautiful. Right. And then for this one, let's line these back up. I'm going to tape it down. Same color again. All right. So there are flowers colored in. So now on this one we have white centers. You could leave it as is if you do not have this Moonstone glimmer paste. You could put wet glue in the centers, add glitter of any color. Maybe you wanted to add some gold into it or something like that, or clear glitter, and then it would dry the white clear. Just want to show you options. Maybe you have prills at home. We've used those in class before. You could add those to the centers, or you could just simply use the ink and line your stencil up and just make them a dark pink. You could make them green, black, whatever you want. Okay, so on this card I use the Moonstone glimmer paste again just for the centers. So I'm going to line those up. Oops, my paste, and just go in the center of each flower. in a nice thin amount so it will dry relatively quickly. All right, and so this stencil, again, you're going to want to clean right away. I'm going to set this aside to dry. I'm going to get that glimmer paste off of there. And I have just rubbing alcohol in this one, so I'm going to spray that down. And I have a couple more examples I wanted to show you. So let's see. So the way that we use the stencil today, we stenciled it out the same way 3 times. Once we stenciled it out over a stamped image. Once we stenciled it out and then we cut each image separately. And you could certainly fussy cut all of those yourself if you don't have the die, so remember that. Here we stenciled it and then cut the image as a whole, which you could also fussy cut. Now on these 2 examples, on this one here, I used the stencil, I laid it down and only put a portion of it on the card, and then I flipped it around and put some at the top. And so then it kind of goes across the card there, but there's no die cutting and no stamping needed for this one. And I think it's really cute. And again, we just stuck with 2 colors here to focus on the stencil, but you could certainly jazz that up with different colors or stencil paste, whatever you want to do. Now on this one, maybe I'll get the stencil out so I can show you what I mean. This one, I took the stencil and did each flower and each image completely separate and built up my own image with the stencil. So what I did is I wanted this big flower. I just had a card panel and I laid my flower down, masked this portion off. So if you have Post-it notes, those are super easy to use to mask things off. So just like that, and I don't have to worry about anything else. And I did that flower, then I layered, I just eyeballed each thing. So I did 3 big flowers, and then I like this little flower, so I tucked it in, and I just kind of kept placing things in and adding it in and masking off where I needed to. And I built up my own image with those flowers as if they were their own, you know, each flower is their own stencil. Then I took scissors and fussy cut around the image I made and put it down. I used that same lacy floral stencil with just green ink onto the card base and then stuck that down. So that's another cool way, and this is another example of not using the stamp and die set with it. So another way to be creative. I wanted to show you that. You didn't have to have it if you don't want it. It certainly makes a nice addition, but if you're looking for ways to use it without those 2, you certainly can do that. So let's see. I think that it should be good to go. We can just be gentle because we don't have to die cut it or anything. So what we're going to do, in your kit you also had a black strip of paper, and that is to back your sentiment, wishing you a wonderful day. So I'm going to do that first. And so it does have black all the way around, but not here on the end. So I'll do it here on the white so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just going to stick it on like this. And if you want it thinner, you can make it thinner. I'm going to center it on there and see what I think. It's a little bit thicker than the card, but that's okay. So there's that. I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to put that black cardstock onto my white card base. I don't know why that doesn't line up. Hope I didn't cut those wrong. I guess I'll just trim it off and nobody will know. yours did not match up, I apologize, but you can just trim off that edge and nobody's going to be the wiser. So I'm going to glue that down, I think. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it's dry. We're good. So I'll just use this. Put that down. And then I did pop up my sentiment, so it's just going to go right in here. And get out some foam. Where did I want? I don't want to put foam on the end that I'm going to cut off, so. Then I'm just going to lay that over, get it where I want it. Come up a little bit, kind of losing the stem. Press that down and I'll flip it over and cut off the excess. And that finishes that card as well. All right, that finishes our card class for today. I hope you enjoy your layering stencil and you find other ways to use it. These are the cards we made today. If you're interested in a kit, you would go to our website from momentstomilstones.com and search for our card kits there. This one is the Hero Arts Wonderful Day Stencil Technique Class Kit. That was a mouthful. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.